Hello to all of you, friends. In our exploration today, we will consider the longest period of empires from the foundation of the Roman Empire to its collapse. Before moving on to the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel in order to reach our subscriber target of 1,000 people. Enjoy the show. The Roman Empire. At the height of its power, the Roman Empire was the most advanced society in Western civilization in terms of political and social structures around 117 BC. By 285 BC, the empire's borders had expanded too far for the central government in Rome to keep up. So Emperor Diocletian divided the empire into two, the Western and Eastern Roman Empire. The foundation of the empire took place with the proclamation of Augustus Caesar as the first Roman emperor, and in the West, the empire collapsed when the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was defeated by the Germanic king Odoacer. In the East, with the death of Constantine XI and the fall of Constantinople by the Ottoman Turks in 1453 BC, the Byzantine Empire, the successor of Rome, also came to an end. However, the lasting contributions of the Roman Empire to Western civilization have continued to be made in all areas of Western culture. Early dynasties. After the Battle of Actium, which took place in 31 BC, Gaius Octavian Thurinus, Julius Caesar's nephew and heir, became the first emperor of Rome and took the name Augustus Caesar. Julius Caesar is often known as the first emperor of Rome, but this is incorrect. He himself never used the title emperor. Instead, he was given the title of dictator, which the Senate had no way of rejecting due to Caesar's superior military and political power. On the contrary, the Senate enthusiastically gave Augustus the imperial title, praised him, did not hesitate to give him power, because Augustus destroyed the enemies of Rome, finally brought order to the region. Augustus ruled the empire until 31 BC and his death until 14 BC. At that time, as he himself said, he found Rome to be a city of clay, but left it as a city of marble. Augustus carried out reforms in the decrees of the city and indirectly of the empire, secured the borders of Rome, implemented ambitious construction projects, and elevated the empire among the most important political and cultural forces in history. In fact, perhaps the most important. Pax Romana, Roman peace, also known as Pax Augusta, was initiated by him, a period of peace, abundance unprecedented in the history of the city was observed during this period, which lasted a little more than 200 years. After the death of Augustus, power passed to his heir Tiberius. Although he continues many of the emperor's policies, Tiberius lacks the robustness of character and foresight that define Augustus. The same can be said about the future emperors, Caligula, Claudius and Nero. These first 5 rulers of the empire are known as the Julio-Claudian dynasty, named after Julius and Claudius, to whom they were related by blood or adoption. Although Caligula's reputation came from his depravity and apparent insanity, the heads of his rule are as admirable as those of his successor Claudius. Claudius, on the other hand, increased the power and territory of Rome in Britain, and this cannot be said for Nero. Both Caligula and Claudius were assassinated while ruling. Nero's suicide brought the end of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, and then began the year of the 4 emperors, in which social troubles were often observed. The 4 emperors mentioned are Galba, Otho, Vitellius and Vespasian respectively. After Nero's suicide in 68 BC, Galba seized power in 69 BC, but it was soon realized that he was inadequate for this role. He was killed by the Praetorian Guards. On the day he died, Otho succeeded him on the throne, and according to ancient records, it was thought at that time that he would make a good emperor. However, because his rival General Vitellius wanted the power for himself, a civil war broke out. Otho committed suicide and Vitellius took the throne. It turned out that Vitellius was not much different from Galba. As soon as he took the throne, he focused on luxurious entertainment and banquets, neglecting his duty. Instead, the legions proclaimed General Vespasian emperor, and marched to Rome. Vitellius was killed by Vespasian's troops, and eventually Vespasian became emperor on the anniversary of Galba's accession to the throne. Vespasian was the founder of the Flavian dynasty, which is known for its huge construction, economic prosperity, and further expansion of the empire. As proof of this abundance, the construction of the Flavian amphitheater can also be shown. For example, the construction of the Flavian amphitheater began during the reign of Vespasian and was completed by his son Titus. At the beginning of Titus' reign, in 79 BC, Mount Vesuvius exploded, and the cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum were buried under the ground. Ancient sources praise Titus without exception for his work both in the management of this disaster and after the great Roman fire that took place in 80 BC. Titus died of a high fever in 81 BC, and his brother Domitian took the throne. Domitian expanded and secured the Roman borders, began to rebuild the city after the Great Fire, continued the project started by his brother, and strengthened the imperial economy. Despite this, his autocratic methods and policies caused him to fall out of the eyes of the Roman Senate, and he was killed in 96 BC. The 5 good emperors. Domitian's successor was Nerva, who was also his advisor. Nerva founded the Nerva-Antonine dynasty, which ruled Rome between December 96 to 192 BC. This period is a period of increasing prosperity thanks to the 5 good emperors of Rome. After December 96 and 180 BC, 5 extraordinary men ascended the throne in turn and carried the Roman Empire even higher. Ancient sources praise Titus without exception for his work both in the management of this disaster and after the great Roman fire that took place in 80 BC. Titus died of a high fever in 81 BC, and his brother Domitian took the throne. Domitian expanded and secured the Roman borders, began to rebuild the city after the Great Fire, continued the project started by his brother, and strengthened the imperial economy. Despite this, his autocratic methods and policies caused him to fall out of the eyes of the Roman Senate, and he was killed in 96 BC. Severan dynasty. Pertinax had only been on the throne for 3 months before he was assassinated. In a very short time, the year of the 5 emperors began with the seizure of power by Septimus Severus. Severus founded the Severan dynasty, defeated the Parthians, and expanded the empire. His expeditions to Africa and Britain were extensive and expensive, which led to financial problems in Rome in the future. Then his sons Caracalla and Geta came to the throne, but Caracalla had his brother killed. Caracalla remained on the throne until 217 BC, but was personally killed by his guard. During the reign of Caracalla, Roman citizenship was granted to all free men within the borders of the empire. Increasing taxes is cited as the reason for the adoption of this law, because in this way, the number of people that the central government can collect taxes after the passage of the law has greatly increased. The Severan dynasty continued to rule under the leadership of Julia Maesa, referred to as the Empress, by manipulation if necessary, but the empire was thrown into chaos after the assassination of Alexander Severus in 235 BC. This chaos is referred to as the crisis of the 3rd century, December 235 to 284 BC. Empire, East and West. This period, which is also referred to as the Imperial Crisis, is defined by the endless civil war. Many military leaders are fighting each other for imperial power. Another consequence of the crisis is the tension in society, economic difficulties. The devaluation of the Roman currency by the Severans is also a factor in this. Finally, another result was the division of the empire into 3 different regions. The empire was reunified by Aurelian. Its policies were expanded by Diocletian, and eventually the Tetrarchy, quadruple rule, was established by Diocletian to maintain the order of the empire. Despite this, the empire is so large that Diocletian declared one of his generals, Maximian, ruled 286 to 305, co-emperor in order to provide better governance, and divided the empire into 2 in 285 BC. Thus, the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, emerged. Since one of the important reasons for the Imperial Crisis was due to the lack of successors, Diocletian imposed the condition that a successor should be elected as soon as a person ascended the throne. Two of the successors are the generals Maxentius and Constantine. Diocletian abdicated on his own in 305 BC, and the Tetrarchy collapsed due to the struggle of rival regions to dominate each other. After Diocletian's death in 311 BC, Maxentius and Constantine dragged the empire back into civil war. Constantine and Christianity. In 312 BC, Constantine defeated Maxentius at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, thus becoming the sole emperor of both Western and Eastern Rome. His reign was between 306 to 337 BC, but the Decembers in which he had absolute power were 307 to 324 BC. Since the prophet believed that Jesus was the reason for his success, Constantine enacted various laws, including the Edict of Milan. According to the Edict of Milan, Christianity and other religions in particular were to be tolerated throughout the empire. Previous Roman emperors also believed that they had a separate connection with a certain deity in order to increase their authority. For Caracalla it was Serapis, for Diocletian it was Jupiter. Constantine, on the other hand, chose the holy Jesus. At the First Council of Nicaea, 325 BC, he prioritized the meeting, regulated the faith, and decisions were made on important issues such as the divinity of Jesus. The manuscripts now known as the Bible have been brought together. He brought order to the empire, raised the value of the currency, made reforms in the army, and also founded the new Rome in ancient Byzantium, today Istanbul. This city is also known as Constantinople. He is now known as Constantine the Great, which is because Christian writers consider him the protector of their faith. But as other historians have determined, this title is also due to his religious, cultural, and political reforms, his ability in warfare and large-scale construction projects. After his death, his sons took over the empire, and in a very short time they were dragged into an internal struggle that threatened all that Constantine had achieved. His three sons, Constantine II, Constantius II, and Constans, divided the Roman Empire between them, but conflicts broke out because they could not agree on who should have more territory. December. Constantine II and Constans were killed in these clashes. Constantius too died after appointing his cousin Julian as his successor. The Emperor Julian ruled for only 2 years, 361 to 363 BC, and during this period, he implemented reforms that would improve the functioning of the government in Rome, trying to achieve the former glory. Since Julian was a Neoplatonic philosopher, he rejected Christianity, deciding that this belief and Constantine's defense of this faith caused the fall of the empire. Although there was officially religious tolerance, Julian excluded Christians from effective government posts, banned Christian teachings, and also prevented them from joining the army. He was killed during the expedition to the Persians, and thus the end of the lineage started by Constantine came. He is the last pagan emperor of Rome. His nickname became Julian the Infidel, because he opposed Christianity. After the short rule of Jovian, who made Christianity the main religion of the empire again and cancelled some of Julian's decisions, the imperial title passed to Theodosius I. Theodosius I, 379 to 395 BC, completed the religious reforms of Constantine and Jovian, banned all pagan worship, closed pagan schools and universities, at the same time converted temples to Christian churches, and made Christianity the official religion of Rome in 380 BC. After the short rule of Jovian, who made Christianity the main religion of the empire again and cancelled some of Julian's decisions, the imperial title passed to Theodosius I. Theodosius I, 379 to 395 BC, completed the religious reforms of Constantine and Jovian, banned all pagan worship, closed pagan schools and universities, at the same time converted temples to Christian churches, and made Christianity the official religion of Rome in 380 BC. On September 4, BC 476, the end of the Western Roman Empire officially came. Emperor Romulus Augustulus was deposed by the Germanic king Odoacer. Some historians also consider the end to be 480 BC, the year of the death of Julius Nepos. The Eastern Roman Empire, on the other hand, continued to exist as the Byzantine Empire until 1453 BC, and although it was briefly referred to as the Roman Empire, at first, it did not have much resemblance to the original empire. The Western Roman Empire would later try to be revived as the Holy Roman Empire, 962-1806 BC, but it did not have the characteristics of the Roman Empire and was simply called the Empire. The legacy of the Roman Empire. The inventions and innovations that came out of the Roman Empire deeply affected the lives of people in the ancient world and still continue to have an impact on various cultures around the world. The Romans either invented inventions such as road and building construction, indoor plumbing, arched waterways, and fast-drying concrete themselves, or they developed existing inventions. The calendar used in the West belongs to Julius Caesar, and in the Latin language family, the days of the week and months get their names from Rome. The origin of the current product return is also based on Rome. According to Roman law, consumers could return defective or unwanted products to the seller. Apartment buildings, insula, public toilets, locks, keys, newspapers, and socks were also the production of the Romans. Besides shoes, the postal system, inspired by the Persians, cosmetics, magnifying glasses, and satire in literature also came out of Rome. During the empire, serious developments had also taken place in the fields of medicine, law, religion, politics, and war. The Romans were quite successful in adopting and developing the inventions of the indigenous people in the newly conquered lands. For this reason, it is not clear which invention is original, which one is produced from an existing concept, technique, or tool. However, it can be briefly said that the Roman Empire has left a legacy that continues to have an impact on the world even now. Here we have come to the end of this discovery. If you have submitted the video, do not forget to subscribe and click on the submit button. See you next time.